Hi, it's Jane. You know how sometimes you keep wishing for something and then when it happens, you wish you hadn't turned that monster on? Well, for the longest time, Ronan and Izzy were feral cats. Izzy will let me pick her up, she'll let me hold her, pet her like crazy. Ronan, I can pet him. It's always on his terms, whatnot. Okay? I've always wanted to be able to hold him. So I have been doing these little bits here and there where when he gets up and he lets me pet him, I will kind of encircle him, continue to pet him, whatnot. Well, he has been super needy today, and I will tell you part of it. He's learned how to play fetch with the little shaky mouse. He's learned that I will toss it. He brings it back to me. I will toss it again. I'll pet him, love him, that kind of thing. So I had done that earlier, and I was going back into the back because I'm looking for fabric that will complement that VW so I can get those bags sewn up. So as I was coming back in, he'd stopped in front of me and kind of did this meow like I want something, which is his usual little meow. And then he kind of stood up, put his paws on my upper thigh. So I reached down, picked him up, loved on him, petted him some. I could feel him starting to panic, so I slowly bent down and put him down. Now he has been the neediest greediest little guy I've ever seen. Wanted to be picked up, loved, petted all day long. I asked for it. Which is another reason why I have cat fur all over me. I am working on the poncho that someone has commissioned me to make for them. And I've already told her I have cats, pre-warned her. She said, not a problem. I said, which means not only will my hair be worked into it, but most likely the cat's hair, because I can't guarantee there won't be fur bits all over the place. But she's okay with that, so, that's a good thing. But then as I was kind of going down this rabbit hole of I was looking at some other channels today. It's always a new year and people are always putting different plans and things out there. And I saw something and I thought, that's a brilliant idea. Why haven't I ever done that? And I will tell you, I do have a notebook that I will write in the projects that I am currently working on, or like, let me give you an idea. I have taken the measurements that I need for me to make a garment. Yes, I'm going to keep it. It's going to be a garment for me that I am going to be making out of the yarn. That's the viewer's choice for what I was to make out of my tote. So I went to make my measurements, took those, put them down in there, and I am planning on starting that this evening. I had hoped to get to it yesterday, but I just didn't. I had too much stuff that was going on. But I was like, okay, I've got all that information in the notebook. It's ready to go. I just need to remember to keep up with it. Remember where it's at so I can keep up with it and follow everything that is needed. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And yeah, that's been the basis of what I have been up to recently. But when I got on this one um, person's video, she was talking about making a plan for her whips. Now, granted, this was a sewing channel, but she kind of went into detail about how she does it. She sets out a calendar and she sets plans to work on her whips, to do certain things, and to be able to be done by a certain time using a calendar and putting it in a project notebook. And I thought, that's kind of a brilliant idea. Maybe I should start something like that. We all know if I get started on something, I'll go down another rabbit hole. It's that craft ADD I have. I call it craft ADD because, I go back and forth from different crafts. But I'm sure it's adult ADD. My mother always teased me as a kid that I was on she called it a different level of autism. I didn't care if I was alone. Being alone never bothered me whatsoever. So, like I said, that has never really bothered me any at all. So, I'm one of those people. I could be alone, doesn't bother me a bit. And or I could be with a group of people. But I would get overstimulated at some point and have to walk away from the crowd of people. Or as I call it, it's just too people-y out there, so I need to get away. So I'm sure that I have some type of ADD, undiagnosed ADD. I don't care, I'm going to go with it. I'm going to claim it's craft ADD. And I thought if I get started on that, I'll go down this whole rabbit hole of looking at a million videos to see how to do it when I just need to figure out a system that works for me. Do you guys ever do that? Get down a rabbit hole because you thought it would help you, and then you wind up going on this whole new episode in your life where you can't keep track of anything anyway because you got so many things you're doing? Yeah. So, I have sat down and sort of thought about what I plan on doing. And I thought, I'm just going to incorporate that in that project notebook that I have to begin with. Where I pay my bill for them to pick up my garbage, they always have these little, the tiny little calendars. And I can always set that, glue it, tape it into the corner, and it'll be just fine. To kind of use that as a guide for that calendar part of it. So anyway, that's kind of the rabbit hole that I went down this morning before I started working on this. And I know I need to get it done, and there are times that I'm okay with working on it, and other times I just don't want to be anywhere near it. It's probably one of the reasons I very rarely do things commissioned for others. When it comes to crochet or knitting, I don't mind doing that with, sewing, quilting, that kind of thing. But for some reason, knitting and crochet, I do not want to be tied down to that project and have an absolute timeline that it has to be finished. I am bad about that. So what are you guys working on today? I hope those of you who have gotten snow for one of the few rare times of the year are enjoying your snow. My sister in Fort Worth, she has 2 collies that she trained. She was training one for rescue, rescue and recovery, but the dog's not really interested in it. So now it's more of a companion comfort dog that she takes into the hospitals, and she seems to do really well with that, with children and adults. So, but her brother, they haven't determined what because my sister did adopt. Well, I say it's her brother, but is it really her brother? It's a different litter of dogs, but from the same mother and father. Guess that's brother, sort of. Does it work like that with dogs and cats? Who knows? But anyway, they still don't know what what they think his gift or his talent will be. He's still a pretty young pup. He's still at that kind of stupid age. Although he's coming along well with the training that my sister has been doing. And my sister has been going out and working with a fellow. They train dogs for other people. And then they get the people used to the commands and the training so that they can follow through with their dogs. And she enjoys doing that quite a bit. But they had snow for the first time this week, and she had a little video of the dogs playing in the snow, having the zoomies, having fun in the snow. So I hope that the snow is all that you wanted it to be. Mine this morning when I got up, normally I would go to second Saturday of the month. Normally we have a women's prayer gathering at the church where we come together, and sometimes we hear someone's witnessing of their story, their come to Christ moment. Other times we do a devotion, which is nice, and then we spend probably 30 to 40 minutes in prayer for all kinds of things, for people that we know that are in need of prayer, situations, families, our fellow sisters in Christ, whatever, the need for the prayers are. Well, it starts at 9 o'clock. I could not get down my road here because it was so icy and slippery. Couldn't even get down out of the driveway. So, stayed home. And I don't like missing those. Find them enjoyable. Find that it also gives me a little bit peace in my heart, and also lets me reach out to my other sisters who are in need. So, didn't do that because of that. And the ice is finally off the road, and the road's warmed up enough. And I knew it would be warmed up probably about 1. And it did take until about 1:30 for it to actually clear off, for the road to become warm enough. And I don't think people understand, the way that the roads work. Lots of times the heat from the sun builds up in the earth, the road, but it doesn't reflect back up until a couple of hours later. So, anyway, the roads are clear now. Can't go out though. Have no reason to go out. other than to what I would do is what my mother used to call, let's go window shopping. I do that quite frequently if I'm bored, but it's also a way to get a little more exercise in the way of walking around, that kind of thing. So, but we would go window shopping as a kid. We'd go to the Woolworths, then we'd go to Whackers. Whackers was a 5 and dime store. I loved that store. And they always had these pretty little coin purses. Little tiny coin purses. And I always wanted one. And I saved up my 50 cents a week till I could buy one of those. Yep. Loved it. And they always had these pretty dolls. And I always wanted a doll. I had a Baby Magic, and not the type of Baby Magics there are today, but this, you had a little wand that you would wave over her belly and she would pee. You could give her water to drink so that she could pee. She had diapers. She was just a fun little toy. Then I also had one of those soft, it was a Thumbelina doll. Had the soft body, but the legs, the arms, and the head were plastic. And I wore that baby doll out, boy. But I always wanted some of those pretty dolls. The fashion dolls that they had sitting up in the corner of the store. They had these beautiful gowns or, big, beautiful coats and hats. Always wanted those. Never got one. Because my mother knew that I was going to play with everything I got, so. But always wanted one. And that always brings me back to that idea of going to Whackers for looking at those things, doing our window shopping. And there was also, Whackers was also where we would go get our photos for the year, And I can remember this one photo with my little sister Lisa. She's sitting, my older sister's behind me. I'm in the middle. My younger sister is in front. We've all got these pretty little, like A-line dresses on. And the picture was black and white. And so I don't know why, we had to have fancy dresses. But we had those dresses on for our photos. And my younger sister, is clutching a piece of bubble gum, bazooka bubble gum, in her hand, and she has tears in her eyes, but she's smiling because she had that bubble gum. That's the only way they could get her to smile for that picture. So she was bribed for that picture. And whenever I see it, I just laugh, thinking about what it took to get little Lisa to smile for that camera. Do you guys have any crazy memories like that? Did you guys do the thing with at Easter where you had to have the fancy little dress and the hat and the little purse to go with it? New Mary Janes. The fancy socks with the lace on them. And the little gloves for your hands for Easter. I always thought that was interesting. And I don't know why my mother did that. We didn't go to church. But that was very important for us to do for Easter morning. So, yeah. I did not start going to church until I was in the 3rd grade. And it was kind of a punishment of sorts. At least my teacher, her and her mother were always taking kids to church. And they'd bring candy to hand out after church. But one year I was walking, and I was one of those kids that I would walk blocks away, go around, see the different houses, pet all the animals, that kind of stuff. Um, so, anyway, I used to walk blocks away, and I mean, you know, like about a mile away from home on my own, around the neighborhood checking out things. And in my third grade teacher's yard, she had some beautiful, she had lilies. She had some lilacs. She also had one of my favorite things in the whole wide world, pussy willows. I mean, I didn't know about etiquette, you know, going up to ask if I could get a branch. So I just broke off a branch of pussy willow and took it home. Well, she had seen me do it, so she called my mother, and my mother was talking with her and said, I'll talk with her. And of course, I had to go back up to my teacher's house, and my mother drove me up there. She didn't know I'd walked until that day, which I got a chewing out for that too, going away so far from the house. But she made me go up and apologize to my teacher, and also asked my teacher if there was anything I could do to make payment for it, And I had told my teacher I get 50 cents a week for allowance, be more than willing to pay for it. And my teacher said no. She said, I think what you should do is you should come help me in my little flower garden, my garden in my backyard. But I'd also like to see you help me grade some of the tests for the students that I have. I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. I loved playing school, so that was right up my alley, right? Wasn't so much about playing in the dirt. I have always had this weird thing that when I mess around in the dirt, my hands feel dirty all day long and I have to wash them. It's not OCD enough to be where I have to wash them constantly, but if I feel my hands are dirty, I wash them. And that was just the way it was when I was outside. Bizarre, right? And let me tell you, I was outside playing in the dirt, the mud, catching lizards, catching snakes, you name it. So, it wasn't that big a deal, but I would have to come in and wash my hands. So I said, okay, and she taught me how to care for the flowers, taught me about the flowers, taught me about the pussy willow and the story of the pussy willow, taught me about how to care for them, and taught me why it's not a good idea to break a branch off of there, and showed me how to do it correctly if I needed to take a splice, as a starter to make a new plant, all that kind of stuff. I graded tests for her from students and whatnot. We had a great time, but she also insisted that I go to church with her. So in the third grade, I started going to church with her. And my older sister wanted to go to church, so she was going to church. Then my younger sister was going to church. So the three of us would go to church, and our teacher, she would pick us up. She had a station wagon. And Lord knows there was probably 10 or 12 kids in that station wagon with her. And I guarantee you we didn't have seat belts and we weren't sitting in car seats. You just sat wherever you could. But that was the first time I'd gone to church, and I fell in love being at church and fell in love with God. And yeah, so that's how my original getting to know God started out. But my mother was a big believer that if you did something wrong, you had to go to the person, you had to apologize, you had to make amends for it, however they wanted it to be done, all that kind of stuff, which was a good thing. I mean, it's a great way to teach your kids. Now, my mother and father had gone to several Bible studies in their life. I mean, a ton of them. But they really weren't sure if they believed or not. My mother was let me stop this because we're going to run out of time. Yeah. So my mother was, her family was Jehovah's Witnesses. And my mother had type 1 diabetes. Now, when it first started presenting as a teenager, she couldn't keep weight, and as you know, type 1 diabetes in the old days used to be called the walking skeleton disease, because a lot of people, since they didn't know that they needed insulin, their bodies weren't producing it at all. They were literally, in a sense, starving themselves, and they would be so sick they wouldn't eat, all that kind of thing. So that's how it was described as the walking skeleton, because you would get skinny. It would be like some of the pictures of the children in Ethiopia, skinny, scrawny, that kind of thing. Well, they had finally taken my mother to the, not to a doctor, but to the hospital, because she was so sick, and they couldn't wake her up. She had gone into a ketoacidosis stage, which is sort of a coma for those who are type 1 diabetes if they don't get their blood sugars under control. So the doctors, discovered she had the diabetes, and of course they put her on insulin, and of course my mother had always gone to church as a Jehovah's Witness. Well, the Jehovah's Witnesses excommunicated my mother's family over her being treated by a doctor and using medicine, to treat her diabetes. Now, this saved her life, but, they really didn't care, because that wasn't God's plan for her. So, she had a bit of a antagonistic attitude towards religion because of that. So anyway, they had gone, my father didn't believe in God. So they'd gone to several Bible studies, and eventually my father, was like, no, I don't believe. And, mother was okay with it. They weren't going to church, but mother was still living a lot of those morals and practices out of being in a church, which was still a good thing for raising your children. And my mother was the master of, I can only call it psychological warfare. As a child, she would use all kinds of tactics on us. And they were all psychological to the point where we were well behaved because of what she would do with us. I'll give you an example. A lot of kids, my parents both smoked. A lot of kids, if their parents smoke, eventually they're going to sneak some cigarettes and try them. When my mother found out that we were sneaking cigarettes, to try to smoke, she would make us smoke right there with them. And she also did the thing where, because we kept stealing the cigarettes, she made us work off in housework and whatever else to pay for a pack of cigarettes. And then she would make us sit and smoke that entire pack of cigarettes. I never smoked again. Well, occasionally. I wasn't a real big smoker. It was an occasional thing that I would smoke. So, yeah, she would do that kind of thing. But when we were out with people, they were, your girls are so well behaved. My grandmother would always talk about that. The girls are so well behaved. I don't know how you do that, Rena, because they're nothing like their cousins. Their cousins are like little wild children. And Mother would say, well, they're just disciplined. They know what they can do and what they can't do. She said that doesn't mean they don't try to go past their limits every once in a while, but they know there are consequences for them. So, yeah. That was the way my mother always took care of us. But, so my parents, weren't religious. I didn't grow up in a Christian household, per se. Learned about Christianity, loved God. But I'd never read the Bible, of course, when I was a kid. And accepted Jesus Christ into my heart at the Church of Nazarene in Roswell, New Mexico. They give you a Bible. It's a King James Bible. Well, when you sit down to read that Bible at the age of 8 or 9, you don't understand the flipping thing that's in it. That version is even hard enough for just plain adults to be able to understand. So, I would sit down, I would read a few things, and it was over my head, and I had no one to ask about it. And Sunday school, I want to say, was more busy work, so that we could stay out of the adults' hairs while they were having their church service, or, their Sunday school, whatever it was. But, yeah, it took me years before I really started understanding the Bible, getting into it, reading it, that kind of thing. But that's how that happened. So, yeah, those were some of the, memories and things I have as a kid. What are some of those you have? I do know I can remember all those times we'd pull into the gas station. And gas stations then, the guy would come out, fill your gas tank. They'd wash your windshields in your car, check your oil. They did all kinds of things while you were there. Okay? I don't think there's very many gas stations around that do that now, except maybe in New Jersey, because I think they have a law that you can't pump your own gas, so you have to have someone pump it. I don't know that they do all those kind of service things like they used to. I do have a friend whose husband has a gas station, and they do pump your gas when you come up, if you want them to. If you want to do it, they'll let you do it. But they come out and they do it. They ask you if you'd like to have your oil checked or your windshields washed, and they'll do that for you if you say yes. But yeah, nowadays we don't get that service, do we? But I can remember pulling up to that gas station one time, and the little marker that they had out on the ground, one of those little, what do they call them, sandwich boards, tea boards, whatever. And the guy had gone out to change the gas from 30.9 to 33.9 per gallon. And my mother was so upset because of how high gas was. Can you imagine what our thoughts would be today to see the price of gas. Not only that, but after that we'd stopped and gone to Safeway, and in the window ground beef was 79 cents a pound. She was just beside herself. And I'm sure I know it's because times were really tight at that point in our life. And, it was throwing off her budget. And she was the type of person, she would sit down and her and Daddy would work out a budget for the month, and they stuck to it. But this blew their budget out of the water. So, I just remember that. All right, guys, I think I've talked long enough. So now it's time to get into, I am going to start doing some shout outs with some of the different videos that I'm doing instead of doing shout outs every time. I do have shout outs filmed through the first week in February. So, and I do explain that at that point. So, and that's because there are some people that just watch the shout outs. So anyway, I'm changing that. There's no longer going to be this period where I do shout outs. I'm going to include them on different videos throughout the week that I do. But I do want to let you know, when I put the list, the channels mentioned down below, many times if you put the @ symbol with the channel name, it will turn blue and you can click on it. It'll bring up the channel's name. When you're uploading videos, you can click on it, and then it's a linkable click. Well, now for some reason right now it only does one link. It won't add all the others, and I don't know what's going on with that. So I need to go in, and see if there's been a change and how to change that. Just haven't done it yet. So you may just have to copy and paste if you see these channels and want to check them out. All right, here we go. Here's a couple. Loving Life Over 60. This is Fancy, and on her channel she talks about the different stages of her life. She will be exploring the next chapter as she begins to age. She hopes that she can do this last walk of her life with grace. So join her on this journey and we'll explore together. She has a great channel. Then there is Diving with Purpose. This is Cynthia, and she does dumpster diving and family vlogs. Now she also has another channel called Cooking with DWP. This is an extension of Diving with Purpose, dumpster diving. She utilizes the food found and what she harvests from her garden into her dishes. So she takes you on these cooking journeys as well. Then there is Joyfully Thriving. This is Kristen. She shares budget grocery hauls and shows you how to save money on groceries. Teaches you how to learn to build stockpile on a budget. Then there is Jenna's Cozy Corner. This is Jenna's channel for her crochet. So join her. Then there is Blue Leaf, and this is Deb. It's a collection of things that she has made and her thoughts on the processes. It also includes crochet, sewing, and knitting. So, Then there is Speckles with Wool. This is Kyla, and she really loves yarn. Her first love is crochet, but she's been known to dabble in some knitting projects. She likes to focus on wearable projects that can be worn and integrated words are hard, into daily outfits. So join her to see what she's making. Then there is Crocheted by Vivi. This is cozy crochet content. The next channel is Mary Grace, and hers is Show Me Your Knits. She is a fiber artist, Wyoming-based creator lover of community, and she does mostly knitting. Then there is Grace and Pearls. This is Grace, and she is a knitter that is based in Ohio. The next channel is Naughty in Nice. This is Sierra. She does knitting, crochet, and sewing, and she just started. I think she had 1 subscriber. I made 2 when I joined her channel, but she just started crocheting, just started her channel, but she's well on her way. She's made some garments, so check her out. Then there is Amy of Melbourne. She does sewing, crafting, how-to videos. She loves to make things and show her deep dive research into how to do different skills. She shares tutorials to help you complete not only her craft kits and patterns, as well as other DIY projects. She sews, knits, and crochets. Okay, and that is it. So I'm going to let you go, and I will catch up with you guys on another video later. Everybody have a great week. Bye.